is Elya Baskin, and I'm not an alcoholic. This is just water. You probably noticed my Tennessee accent. Or was it Latvian? It's Latvian. Before I'll be talking about the film, if you permit me, I'll tell you a couple of words about myself. I was born in the Soviet Union 5 years after the end of the Second World War. And most of the people here know that Western part of the Soviet Union contained 3 small countries, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which were occupied only in 1940 by Stalin. Before that, they were capitalist countries, and I was born in one of them, in Latvia, in Riga. But by the time I was born, it was part of the Soviet Union. As many of you know, that, how should I say, we all considered that we lived in a very, very, very big prison that was sort of minimum security. It wasn't maximum. If you behaved right, you can do a lot of things there. You could travel within the country wherever you want. You can try to do things that you like to do. But basically, what's the difference between the prison and not prison? You cannot leave on your own free will. You have to show your loyalty, and it was difficult for us to get to travel to socialist countries like Bulgaria, Romania. You had to go to the party committee, and they would ask questions about the history of the Communist Party and your biography, and then they will decide, are you loyal enough to go or not? And it was 10 times as hard for people who wanted to visit Western countries. So I grew up in Riga, and then when I started to be interested in theater, I applied to a school in Moscow, because that's where best theater schools are, in Moscow and in Leningrad then, and St. Petersburg now. And I was lucky, I got accepted. And I remember once I went to see a play at the Moscow State University. And I never saw anything like that before. And I will try to be as clear as I can, and maybe it has little to do with the film that I'll be talking a bit later, but it has to do. You will find out about it a little later. So there was a little play, and empty stage, and an actor would come out and make circles saying this one word: what can I do by myself? What can I do by myself? What can I do by myself? And the second actor would appear. The two of them would be walking, saying the same thing: what can I do by myself? What? The third one, the fourth, and soon enough, the whole stage was full of people chanting, what can I do for myself? What can I do by myself? And I'm sure you understood the meaning of it, because that's how people could express their feelings. Actually, this play lasted only, I think it was 3 or 4 performances. Soon it was closed down. And I'll come to that a bit later. I was telling you about the little country of Latvia, which became a republic, one of the socialist republics. And only in 91 it became again, went back to being a capitalist free country, all three of them, Estonia and Latvia. And they never actually liked being under Russians. I remember a joke, it was when Yuri Gagarin in 1961 was the first cosmonaut who went out of space. There was a joke that a Latvian man was fishing at a lake and the other one runs up to him and breathing heavily and says, "Yanka, have you heard? Russians went to outer space." He dropped his fishing rod and said, "All of them?" So back to the Soviet, to Reagan. I came here in '76 when there were last few months for President Ford, and then President Carter became the president. And few months later, I started to think, did I do the right thing, leaving Russia? And for 4 years, I didn't have a good answer until President Reagan came to power. And then when I understood that I did make the right choice, because when I came here during the Ford presidency, I literally thought that I entered a paradise. First town I lived in was Phoenix, Arizona, and I met so many wonderful people, warm people, maybe because of their climate, but I was surprised that people didn't lock their doors. I understand it's different now, but then it was absolutely fantastic. I made so many new friends, and then times when you go to the store and everything is like, today is $1, tomorrow it's $3, and the hostages and the whole thing, it was a nightmare. So about the film, it took 10 years to make it happen. There were a lot of obstacles. I mean, not a lot of investors were eager to invest in the movie about Ronald Reagan. And even when the movie is finished and it will be played in theaters soon, advertising this film was very, very difficult because a lot of left-wing networks would boycott their advertising or place very, very tough limits. We were able to overcome it, and now, I mean, we try to advertise mostly on Fox News Channel, but not only. And it's a good film. It's a good film for especially young people who are very confused in our age. I know it because I have a daughter who is 27-year-old, and always see our world differently. I mean, be honest, growing up, I mean, it's already, she's a little better when she's 27 than when she was 20. She enters the real world and met real people, and now she understands a little more, and I think when she turns 30, she'll become a Republican. That's just only my hope. So the character that I play in the movie, his name is Kirchman. He was a defector. He worked for the government during Stalin's time and defected to the United States. He was, I think he was in some kind of a trade mission here, and he stayed. He didn't go back. During that time, in 1930s, Stalin was playing a very interesting game. He was inviting very famous, prominent Western writers, like Bernard Shaw, like Leon Feuchtwanger, Herbert Wells, to Russia. And he was trying to show socialism as a wonderful idea. And of course, those writers were treated like they were kings, like they were royalties. They lived in a dream reality which was built specially for them, and they were showing like collective farms, which had nothing to do with the real ones that were poor and dirty, but they would have one or two, which was absolutely dreamlike, and they would be staying in the best hotels, treated in the best restaurants, and absolutely treated like royalty. And when they came back to their countries, they wrote about it and praising the socialism. And the character that I play, and that's exactly what Stalin wanted. That was the reason he invited them. So when this person, Mr. Kirchman, was here, he decided that he needs to open the eyes of people in America about the real Russia, about the reality of life in Russia, which wasn't that glamorous as the writers were shown. And he was going from little community to one little community to another, to spoken churches and synagogues. And a lot of people didn't believe him. A lot of people believed, I mean, who would you believe? The guy who betrayed his own country, and he's probably, or the writer, the world famous writer who everybody is used to be trusting. And it was a very difficult task for him. And on one of those occasions, he was in a church where Ronald Reagan was a parishioner, and that was the first time he heard the true thing about communism, about gulags, about how Stalin treated people, about. You remember at the beginning I was saying about minimum security prison, but not during the Stalin time. It was maximum security prison. You would go to jail just for telling a joke, which was anti-communist or something that made fun of Politburo. So he was opening the eyes, but a lot of people still were very skeptical, and that's the part that I play in the movie. And very interestingly, there was a guy here in the 70s, and I really encourage you to write down or maybe remember his name. His name is Yuri Bezmenov. You can see him speak on YouTube. And he was the Russian spy in early 70s, working for Novosti, which is news agency in Moscow. And the main goal of this agency was to influence Western governments, Western universities, and actually subvert them. And that's exactly what Thomas was doing in the 70s, as my character was doing in the 30s in the film. Are we okay with the market? Okay, all right. So that was, so the name of the man is Yuri Bezmenov, and he in very wonderful English, he tells the story about the methods of this subversion, how they are not rushing, they take their time, they go to our schools, they invite our students to Russia, or at least then it was Soviet Union. And again, they were treated like royalty, the students, and they were taught that socialism is a wonderful thing. And then they came back here, and they already started being teachers and professors. And all this Marxist ideology that was spread by them here, and I think it's relevant even today, and it's more relevant than ever. And it's wonderful to see a group like you here, but what I noticed that most of the people are middle-aged or older, and we need to do something so more younger people would listen to us and listen to our voices, and the way to do it is just remember the beginning of my speech about what can I do by myself. The apathy is the biggest enemy of our cause, and it's very important for us to be together and not to be quiet and to be active. I'm not a big speech giver. I mostly say lines which were written for me, so that's why I apologize. This was totally improvised, and if you have any questions, I'd love to